What is up, everybody? Lyle No Hippie Trucking and Transportation coming at you from the Hacienda, Centennial, Colorado. Just wanted to talk about lease versus lease purchase at Prime. I'm just finding it a whole lot easier just to go live rather than doing a dedicated video towards it. Maybe I'll get back to that, but that's what's up. Afro, what's up? Just out here chilling. Just went out to the truck earlier today. Just took some stuff out there. Just so I don't have to do it. Dr. Pepper right here. Just so I wouldn't have to do it all at once. Tito's and soda. Hey, Lyle, greetings from Orlando. Chris, did you get that big ass lease completion bonus check yet? All right, so I just wanted to do the math on this. Okay, not yet. Boy, that's a long time waiting for a check that big. All right, so as soon as a few more people come in here, I did a little bit of math. I'm not going to get too in-depth on it, but just enough for people to kind of make up their mind if they want to do a regular lease or a lease purchase. So, all right, I'm company another week waiting on, or I'm guessing another week waiting on detail in the body shop. Well, that's good. I am actually regretting having to get back out on the road. I mean, to be honest with you, I would probably like to, well, thank you. I'd probably like to stay another couple weeks, maybe a month or something like that. But, you know, you have to run a load every so often, and I don't want to just grab a load. I mean, I might. If they try to give me some bullshit local load, then I'm going to be like, okay, I'll deliver this load, and I'll be back next week. All right. Hey, man, I'm camped out at Rush Truck Center, broke down, back in the shop again. At least if you're in the Rush Truck Center in Colorado, at least you're at a good Rush Truck Center. If I would have known, man, I was just out there earlier today, I could have scooped you up and went out to eat or something like that. Me and my wife are going to be going and getting a little bit more sushi here later on today. We got a new sushi place right down the street from us, and it is the bomb. All right, so that Rush Truck Center, I'm telling you, they get busy. So I've never had an issue with them. They've always got my truck done way sooner than expected. Hey, flatbed trucker, I would stay home until spring if Prime didn't want me to run a load every so often. That is a downfall of the lease purchase at Prime. They don't give you like that 59 days or whatever that is to take off before you do another load or whatever it is. So I think I'm capped at like 30 days, and that 30 days is coming up because I think they're counting the days that I bobtailed out from Springfield. So, all right. So lease versus lease purchase. Now, I'm going to be looking at this as a solo driver, not a team. I'm not sure I would do it as a team. A lease purchase is a team based on the bonuses I've been seeing given out at the end of those 3 years. If you compare that on what the truck's going to be worth in 3 years and what you put down and all that, I just don't think it's that good of a deal. But that's just my opinion. If you really run it as a team, like if you really run and you got, 600,000 miles on your truck at the end of 3 years, you've already put down, let's just say 10,000. Let's say you've been at Prime for a while. So 10,000, and you're not getting a lease completion bonus. So let's say those bonuses on team trucks are coming in like 30 grand or whatever it is. So now you 30, 45, like that right there is the value of the truck damn near. So, I mean, I guess you could run it or whatever, but I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about a straight up solo driver lease purchase versus lease. All right. I don't know what the payments are on these trucks right now, so I'm just going to base it on the truck that I had. So, all right. So, first of all, the lease on my truck, the payment was $1,163 a week, and the price of the truck was $167,062. The total of the payments was $180,265. So think about that. You're only really paying 167, 177. You're paying like $13,000 in interest over 3 years. That's not that bad of a deal on a truck. So look at it like that. Now, if you were to base now on this particular truck, I think my down payment, I didn't screenshot that, but I think my down payment on this one was $11,000 because I'd already been leasing it prime for 3 years. So instead of the $14,000, so I put $11,000 down at that. If you were to compare my truck, had I just leased it as opposed to lease purchase it, my payments on the lease purchase were about $100 less a month. All right, because I'm not paying no APU rental, all that kind of stuff, and plus I looked at what trucks were going for when I leased this truck. So I've talked to somebody that's been at Prime for like 15 years, and he's always said, I just want a brand new truck every 3 years. And, so I did the math with him. So I was like, if you've been at Prime 15 years, so let's say you lease a truck every 3 years, you get a brand new truck. So that's 5 leases, 3, 6, 9, 12. Yeah, that's like 5 leases. Let me make sure my math is correct on this. So every 3 years. Yeah, so 5 years. So every 5 years or every 3 years you're getting a lease completion bonus. So you've leased. Well, let me break this down a little bit. That's not going to be apples to apples. All right, so first of all, let's just do a lease. Let's just say you're comparing a straight up 3-year lease to a 3-year lease purchase. So you don't put any money down on a regular lease. In 3 years, if you're a solo driver, let's say you're getting $12,000 or $15,000 into that lease, provided they don't hit you too much on things. So you get that $12,000 or $15,000. Let's even call it $15,000. So right there off the bat, you're $30,000 ahead of just somebody that did a lease purchase. But you have to remember, after 3 years on this lease purchase, you're going to be saving basically $4,000. Let me see what the math is on that. 1163 times 4. So you're going to be saving $4,652 a week on the truck once it's paid off. So let's just take the $30,000. If you were to get back a $15,000 bonus on your regular lease and not put down any money, we'll use $30,000. That's a little high, but $30,000 divided by 4,600. So it's only going to take you 6 months to pay that back, right? To pay back that. Once you clear that $30,000 between you putting down the money and the regular lease getting back the $15,000, you're off to the races. Think about this. Prime lets you keep the trucks on the fleet. Now, who knows? Because they're always changing shit. 7 years. So that gives you 4 years of running without a truck payment. So 1163 times 52. That's 60. That's 60,476. So let's just round that down to. We'll round it down to 55,000, just to under exaggerate things. times 4, $220,000 you'd save over the course of the next 4 years just driving that truck without a payment. And you're going to say, well, Lyle, you're probably going to get hit with some maintenance costs, stuff like that. Okay, you know what? Let's go ahead and just subtract $20,000 off of that because I've already underestimated to begin with. So now you're $20,000, $200,000 saved over the course of 7 years. Now you're going to get back some money on those lease purchases. So let's say that you get back let's say you get back even $60,000, and I'm just throwing out wild numbers on this. Even if you were to get $60,000 in lease purchase or lease completion bonus money, you're still behind $140,000. So I'm a big fan of the lease purchases at Prime. I don't think that there's a better lease purchase out there. And if you just do the math. Now, my thinking when I first did this is, why would Prime do this? You know, why would they have such a good lease purchase program? And then I thought about it. And what I came to the conclusion of is drivers in lease purchase trucks stay at the company longer than regular lease drivers because they're kind of a little bit like, as a lease driver, you kind of almost feel like you're a little bit, you know, like you're kind of stuck, like you don't want to leave with that money on the table, but lease purchase even more. Plus there's certain things that Prime's not giving you on a lease purchase as opposed to a lease. They're not giving you breakdown pay. You know, you're not getting forgiven lease payment. Well, those lease payments aren't really forgiven because if you take those forgiven lease payments on a regular lease, you're basically paying it back at the back end of the lease. But that's the only thing that I could think of is why they would come up with a lease purchase that's that good. You cannot buy a truck at a dealership that cheap. When I bought my truck, I actually did look at regular trucks at dealerships. They weren't selling no 579s at that time at a dealership for what did they say this price was? They weren't selling 579s at dealerships for $167,000 when I got this truck. And even if they were, the interest on that, it's like I said, the total of the payments was only $182.65. So a lot of people look at it as a downfall because the payments are so high, because you're financing it for 3 years. But would I rather have a truck that, like my truck, I think last Friday was my last check or my last payment on it. I think I got the $100 balloon payment coming up. You know, that truck has under 300,000 miles in it. So just something to think about. If you plan on being at Prime for more than 3 years, even if you're like, you know what, let me just use Prime. Let me just go ahead and get in a lease purchase. I think that you can't pay it off sooner than 180 months, or I forget how. You can't pay it off in a certain amount of time. Even if you were just to go ahead and use Prime, do the lease purchase, pay it off as soon as possible, that's still a great deal. So I think people have reasoning by what they do, but I just can't see being at Prime for 15 years doing regular lease after regular lease after regular lease. The math just doesn't make sense. And I did talk to one of these guys, or talk one of them into it about probably about 4 years ago. I think I talked him into it the time I got my first lease purchase, my 21 Peterbilt. They'd been at Prime for like 10 years at that time. They paid off their truck probably about, the same time I did, maybe a couple months after me on my 21. And they said it was the best move that they made, and they were glad that I broke it down to them. Because a lot of people aren't looking at the math. They're just like, I want a brand new truck. And I'm like, even if you want a brand new truck, if you just go ahead and purchase the one truck, keep it for another 6 months, and then sell it, which used to be easier back in the day, I will give you. It's already paid. The math is already caught up on it. Morris, I'm not 100% sure on Hirschbach. What I have done, somebody did talk to me about that because they were thinking about doing a lease purchase against Prime's regular lease, and I think that Hirschbach has a lot of safety nets for drivers in terms of you're not gonna. One thing I will give Hirschbach, from what I know, is you're not gonna get ran out of business because you got a truck in the shop. That's one thing that I'll give Hirschbach. But the lease purchase is not even like comparable. You're talking about brand new trucks, 3 years, paid off with $100 balloon payment. Now, I think if you're going to look at regular leases, then Hirschbach is in the picture as far as that goes. I think that now the 99-cent fuel, that's not a reason to do it. That's just meaning you're not getting, technically at Prime, you're not paying more than 90 cents a gallon in fuel if you factor in the fuel surcharge. So, but I do think that Hirschbach does well with some of their guarantees, and like you're not gonna be paying for certain stuff. So, I put it this way: I don't think Hirschbach is a bad company, and I actually think they're comparable if you're looking at lease versus lease, not lease purchase. All right, let me get to some of these comments. Literally getting ready to go to Canton, pick up my truck, and pay $7,300 for repairs. Starting my year off ugly, but getting on the road Saturday. Man, I do not want to get back on the road. I'm telling you, I would take more time off if I could. Please tell Coach and Tim. Wait, more? All right. Please tell Coach and Tim didn't convince you. I started dabbling into some of those videos that are done by those guys, not because I was really concerned about it, just because they kept putting Prime in their mouth. And one thing that I can't, how can I say this about them? I'm not going to take advice from anybody that, it's not people that have failed, because you could technically say that I failed with the lease fleet, but it's how you react to that failure, number one. And it's more than just trucking. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're never going to be seeing me on YouTube saying I was down to my last $12,000 or, whatever it was, or anything like that. It's like, well, I mean, we have a president-elect that people would call a success, even though he's failed a number of times. But you wouldn't consider that a failure. You would consider that maybe a business strategy. But when I'm like looking at people, like, okay, here's why I would follow them too, okay? I would follow them because I look at them and say, if these guys can make it, I definitely got to make it. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. I like I said, I think that Hirschbach has a good program over there. I just don't think it compares to the Prime lease purchase. Like, trucks getting paid off in 3 years. Like I said, we're going to be killing it. And Shamarcus, if he could stick it through till all his trucks get paid off, and he has, he could thug it out longer than me, then he's definitely going to be killing it. All right, let me see. A lot of outsiders get the lease